This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top concerns and struggles, and I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your thoughts so you can have the energy and the vitality that you want in the second and better half. And today, wow, am I ever diving into changing your thoughts. The title of this potentially grabbed you or didn't, but you landed here anyway. And for that, I thank you. I am so very glad you've joined me today. Why can't you lose weight? What's really behind fitness, fatness, and longevity? And I struggled so much with the title for this podcast. It could have had so many other titles. Mindless exercise to mindful exercise was one that came up. And here's what I want to invite you to do. Even if you're someone who's exercising, not necessarily to lose weight, because I know you're out there. So don't click away just yet. If you're a woman who's in midlife, you don't have weight to lose, but things have shifted. Your body composition is not what it is, or your energy level is simply not what it should be. Stick around, because really this is for all of us. In this post, I'm exploring the question, why can't you lose weight, from an angle that I bring up from time to time. It's popping up now because of several recent conversations I've had. I'm an exercise psychology expert, trained in exercise and sport psychology, because after my undergrad degree, I realized very quickly that we haven't made a lot of changes in people's lives. And I didn't want to go deeper into blood testing and muscle biopsies in a lab. I really wanted to figure out, how can we get people moving and keep them moving and have them loving it and benefiting from all the exercise wealth of knowledge that we contained, so that we could really help people. And that's why I dove into it. And it's why almost 15 to 20 years later, I became a coach, quote unquote, a life coach, which I felt carried a lot of weight. And I changed that to wellness and fitness coach. But I have been well trained in the what's between the ears. And in order to get that to function well, so that below the shoulders, we can get that to function well. So I'm really wanting to talk about, in part, a recent program, observations of students in it, and the interpretations of results that prompted this episode. We mindfully create instances where we'll exercise. Then we mindlessly go about it being exercise. We tack words onto it that are counter to making it fun, like have to, should, ought to. We call them workouts. There's little joy in them, yet they become mandatory because the movement in our lives has dwindled to nothingness for many of us. We don't do chores in the morning. We don't shovel. We use a snowblower. We don't wash dishes. We use a dishwasher. We don't make food. We use blenders or microwave prepared food, or we eat out or we take out. We don't walk or ride bikes. We commute and complain about the parking lot being too far from our building. We put our washers and dryers in our master bedrooms so we don't have to go up and down stairs. We've made everything so convenient that we don't have to move very much unless we choose to. If you didn't experience joy in movement early in your life, or you're self-conscious now, or in pain during movements, you have some obstacles. Those obstacles are already there before you reach a starting point. And then you question, what do I do? You have a limited amount of time to exercise, or a limited window of willpower or discipline, and If you're stuck with incongruent, conflicting messages about what works, the moment will pass without you having done anything. Mindless exercise happens when you're listening to music. You're not even noticing the things along a path, or you're staring at a screen on a piece of cardio equipment. You're purposefully dissociating from the movement instead of association. You finish without ever having really connected any joy with the movement. You may experience some endorphins or even some serotonin, your feel-good hormone, but you won't enjoy the same benefits as a vacation as when you work in. So it's actually taking a vacation from your life. And some people feel that when they're just tuning out, mindlessly watching TV, but it doesn't compare at all to what happens when you work in. This is not yoga, working in, because yoga has become this brief pit stop on a mat in Lululemons where we're still comparing our poses to the next person or judging our own inability to balance in a pose. We go because we know we should. We don't practice yoga. We do yoga. It's so very different. It's a means to an end. It's a physical pursuit or task. And yes, it may be motivated by the need for flexibility, which is a means to an end. Yet, yoga is so much more, or it can be. Noticing is what we're talking about. Noticing, literally, while you're exercising, for instance, the difference between the way each repetition feels, or the way your right compared to your left side feels. If you are a night shift nurse on your feet caring for individuals and you're suffering from adrenal exhaustion, and yet you're beating yourself up about not exercising regularly to help you get the weight off, you have an opportunity right here. That is an active job. And if you're listening and that is not your specific job, but you have a long shift, you're on your feet, you're moving constantly, you're doing what we call non-exercise activity time, or NEAT. And there's a possibility that if you shifted your thoughts from calling it work to calling it exercise, you can physiologically change the results of the same activity. Not that you do more, not you thinking when you're walking down the hall you're going to walk brisker. No, you're not changing anything about what is happening in your day. You're changing the way you think about the activity. If you think of it as work rather than exercise, it has a different physiological effect on you, and it's been proven. It's called the mind-body unity theory. Changing the way you think, the language you use, will change you physiologically. So it's never been more true. I say this very often in mindset recordings, pre-programs, that you have the power to change. Your cells are listening to whatever it is you're saying internally or thinking. I named our newest program, our Flipping 50 program, Stronger, not by accident. It's meant to, from the moment you register, instill a feeling that you will become stronger, that you are already stronger, and make you think of yourself as stronger, not thinner, fitter, slimmer, curvier, but stronger, which serves you so well in every area of your life. Will it create a more thin, fit, healthy you? Likely, yes, if that's something you need. But striving for thin is not necessarily going to make you strong. In fact, it's likely going to make you weak and obsessed, which weakens every part of you. Changing the way you think and what you want, that's what I'm talking about. That serves you so much better than trying to exercise well. Say you're a night shift worker, your circadian rhythms are already causing fatigue. learning to sleep when you can sleep, and eat foods that serve you best on those days when you're working is a wise decision both toward health and optimal weight. If you're pretending and you know you're pretending, your body is going to go where your mind is. So what I mean by that is you can't just say, okay, I'm more fit. Because if you're joking, really, you're poking fun maybe at the idea that I'm relaying here, then your body knows that. And it won't happen. Your body is going to go where your mind goes. But if, on the other hand, you truly believe in what it is you're doing, say the way you're eating, the way you're sleeping, the way you're living, then physiologically your body will change. Once you start something to improve yourself, you start weight training because you're going to get stronger and improve your health and longevity, or you start drinking smoothies with protein and vegetables, and you believe you are healthier, you are. It's called, and we know that it works, the placebo effect. A lengthy article in Prevention Magazine last year even shared emerging research about it, and I tried to dig up the link, but I'm struggling to actually access that article online. So it was in the print edition of Prevention Magazine if you're searching for it. And I believe it was last year around May or June. And that was in 2017 if you're interested. And my point is, it's not just research. It's making its way into, lay magazines that you and I pick up. And doctors are readily acknowledging the fact that they're going to use it. They're going to begin using it with their patients. In so many trials, the placebo effect, in fact, works as well as the drug. What is called the control group can do as well as the key subjects. There are dozens of ways to exercise to improve health. There's no one right way. We see this all the time. CrossFit, and I choose this one because of its controversy. So I'm not attacking CrossFit, but if you prefer, you can choose to target long distance or long endurance running or Ironman distance triathlon, one of my favorites. There's so many scientists, doctors, strength and conditioning experts, and others who believe that these or one of these extreme types of exercise is not healthy. Yet there are athletes in each and every one of them that are thriving examples of health and wellness. Not obsessed, but love their activity and thrive with energy, strength, endurance, fully function well. In fact, so much better than many of us who do far less. And I call this phenomenon the joy factor. It's the difference between work and play. And it's the difference between sticking with it no matter what and having an obstacle, say a life event or stress, interrupt you in such a devastating way that you fall off the bandwagon, you get run over by it. When you love it, you think of it as play, you will come back to it, or you will stick with it even during those times of stress because it's what helps to balance you. But if you think of something as a chore or work, you are far less likely to stick with it. Why can somebody do Tabata intervals? And those are the intervals that you work for 20 seconds and then you rest for 10 seconds. You do them 8 times for a total of 4 minutes. That's a cycle. And those are done or were studied in the subjects at 110% of your maximal output. That is vomiting. That is throwing up in a garbage can after you've done intervals. It's working that hard. Why can some people do those Tabata intervals and someone else can do endurance running? And both can be in optimal shape. And both can really attest to the fact that Tabata intervals are it. They are the way to go. Some physiologists, kinesiologists, fitness professionals in my space will say that interval training and really short interval training is the way for hormone balance. That endurance running is the way away from it, or running away from it and pushing it further. And in fact, a lot of studies will show both are true. Both things, though, actually can be conducive to too much cortisol and burnout if done to extremes. But what matters most is not the physiology of the activity. What matters most is the way individuals drawn to either of those think about either of those. And yes, you have to have adequate amounts of rest. But why can someone eat a plant-based diet and someone can eat animal protein and both seemingly thrive? Why can someone who's had bacon and eggs for breakfast for decades and someone who has fasted regularly both be centenarians who still live independently? In part, it's due to commitment to what they believe is healthy. So that's not going to go no matter what, right? So if you believe drinking a fifth of whiskey every day is healthy, probably that's going to catch up with your physiology sooner or later. If you believe that eating a bag of Lay's potato chips every day is going to be healthy for you, we may want to see what happens physiologically to you when you do that. So what is healthy may be a moving target in your life. You may determine that the way your body is responding now to something that you once swore by isn't working anymore. So you're going about finding a new fit. And if you're listening right now to this, you may be exactly in that place. The exercise you used to do is no longer working. And so you're kind of tasked with finding the new activity, something new that you can have a belief about. That's where you need to get to. And if you have this incongruence of, but I used to believe that, and I believed it for so long that it's hard to let go of, truly that is probably one of the hardest things those of us in our 50s or 60s or beyond face right now, because the science has changed so much during our lifetime about exercise and healthy eating. In fact, if you believe so hard for so long something was the right thing, it can be hard to let go of it. That, not your body, can be the biggest obstacle for finding your best fitness and energy after 50. Our science, the way we were conditioned and socialized, the way our parents taught us about exercise, or they felt about exercise or eating. Did you have a mom who only exercised when she wanted to lose weight, or who constantly dieted? We watched those things happen. It's so very different than what will be true for today's 20 or 30 somethings. At least that is my hope. There's not necessarily one magic bullet that is the same for all of us. There's not necessarily one magic bullet that is the same for all of us or each of us in our entire lives. There's a sense of conviction and then mindful and conscious awareness about doing it, following it, and believing it that has to exist as we create our health or fitness path. Between 1998 and approximately 2008, I was teaching a 200-level course at a university for kinesiology students. It consisted of a lab and a lecture sections, and the purpose of the course was to teach them the physiology of exercise by having them self-test and experience the effects of conditioning. During both semesters, spring and fall, for that decade, I often taught 2 sections with about 25 students each. So about, 1,000 students collectively, not including a few random summers. This phenomena of work versus play, or workout versus joy, was so evident in 2 ways among those primarily 19 to 22-year-olds that I was teaching. First, they would show up and might have a, 2-mile run walk in class. That was the workout that I had assigned for today. And outdoors when weather permitted. So I wasn't putting them on a treadmill. I wasn't running them around a track. But these were students who, wanted to be personal trainers, coaches, physical therapists, athletic trainers, and many of them had been high school athletes or exercise on their own. But they usually gave me about 50% effort during the workouts. It was a chore, a have to, a satisfaction of the required course. Many of them would leave after class, though, and head across the street to the rec center for their real quote-unquote workout. They weren't lazy, but when it was for a requirement, a course, an imposition, it was work for them. And the second thing I learned after about 8 years of teaching without allowing any use of iPods, and this was before we had phones with music on them, how very devastating that was for them. Many of them were so used to music to motivate them or to distract them that they couldn't perform the 1.5-mile run for pre and post assessments at the same level as they could if they were allowed to use the music. They'd never learned to enjoy the activity. They learned to avoid paying attention to their body, distract themselves from the unpleasant task of breathing harder and increasing circulation. A few of them, the collegiate athletes in my courses, were used to the no music rule. They were the high performers. The handful of those students I still hear from or connect with, thanks to social media, are still active today. You can begin choosing something that is a means to an end, but you'll potentially not stick with that thing unless you love the thing. By that I mean, if you're starting to run or to walk or to lift weights because it will help you lose weight, you are probably not going to become a lifelong exerciser who has lifelong fitness and optimal weight and energy, because you will start and stop. Collegiate gymnasts, swimmers, basketball and football players were among the student athletes that populated many of those courses. And beyond college, many of those athletes don't continue participation in their sport. And logically, gymnastics or football are not conducive to it. But they also don't participate in the conditioning activities that they were put through during college. They're, as out of shape as any adult next to them, because weightlifting or running have really negative connotations. Often they were used as punishment, for poor performance or for maybe academic performance that didn't reach the level that needed to happen. And, there were laps given if something didn't happen. There were extra workouts put in if something didn't happen or did, in the form of punishment for behavior outside of athletic rules. Running or lifting for conditioning, right, was work, and unless the athlete truly falls in love with the activity, the means to an end is not going to encourage them to continue no more than it will for you. Group fitness instructors are similar. Many of them started as students in front rows of classes. That's where we recruit when we're trying to get more teachers for our programs. Once they begin teaching their own, joy of the activity changes. Group fitness instructors often seek something else for their own pleasure. They become runners or practice yoga as a student to satisfy their own missing, mindful way of exercising that disappears when you're doing it for someone else or something else like a paycheck. Back to you though, right? And midlife exercise and hormones, up until a point, what you think will work up until a point, because physiological actions or inactions will will affect your body and your health. But your psychology, the way you think and believe about something will also change your physiology. If you believe in me, for instance, if you believe that I've done my research and you can trust me or plug in any fitness professional you may be working with to have filtered information specific to you, then you'll go through a program, maybe personal training sessions, more fully believing that you feel stronger, that you feel more energy, and that you'll sleep better, or you'll be more productive at work, or you'll look better to the opposite sex. If you believe that eating less animal protein and eating plants primarily will improve your health physiologically, it will, at least to a point. Your physiological body will show you the specific results in the amount of lean muscle and the amount of fat that you have. Your presence of frequent illness or injury will tell you that you've overdone it or underdone it eventually. But how you feel never lies. It's always feedback for you. If your belief about aging is that we are in a time when we have the power to change how we age by the application of how we move, what we eat, how we think, and who we spend our time with, then you will age very differently. If you are interested in applying the power of your thoughts in combination with exercise, and you want to learn more about Flipping 50's Stronger program, I'll share the link to join us in the show notes. It's flipping50.com/any-age. And that's where you'll be the first to know about the early bird registration within the next couple of weeks. And we're applying all of this, not just the kinesiology and the physiology, the how to move, the what exercise to do, why in that sequence it matters for hormone balancing, and why the amount of workouts during the week are given to you and the amount of rest days between them are given to you. But if you're also interested in how you can change your thoughts about the exercise, then this is for you. This is really about creating what we want to be, what we want to be true about our future and about our now. If you're more interested in asking, how can I do it, than asking, can I do it, then you're a perfect candidate. How we think about things changes things. I went just this last weekend back home to my home state of Iowa for a funeral. I threw the trip together in a day, wasn't even there for 16 hours. And I had so many expressions of sorrow and people sending condolences, but it wasn't that. Your thoughts change everything. Mine were gratitude for the ability to be able to drop everything and go, for the time, however short it was, to be with family and express their importance in my life by being there. I felt good, not sadness after being there. The warmth of your thoughts and perspective around an event shapes the event. There have been awful and tragic events happen in the last few years to my family members and I, but in the frame we put on things comes the way we deal with them. Hormones and stress may have robbed you of the energy, the body you had, but some of the reasons have been good. Family, career you've loved, choices you might not change. And it's your belief about whether you can change the outcome that really will determine whether a program will work for you. Even one based on the physiology of hormone balance and psychology has to be something that you're not pretending to believe in, but you truly believe can help you. I've had many people go through programs once and then come back. And I don't look at that as a failure, because the reason they tell me they're back is something like this. I went through this last January, for instance, and I really wasn't fully invested in it. I really wasn't doing it 100%. And I'm ready now. I've reviewed and I've watched and I've listened to your podcast and your videos and your programs, and I'm finally ready to really do it 100%. And that is the difference. Going through a program where you get a first layer, like reading a book for the first time or seeing a movie for the first time, that's deep. Is it worthwhile to do it? Yes, I think so. But will you truly get the outcome you want if you're only pretending to give it a try? There's a big difference between trying and doing, and being fully invested in what you want the outcome to be. It's believing that transformation, that outcome, that is the key. So if I've left you with some questions or some strong emotions or comments, share them below the show link at flipping50.com/podcast, where I'm going to publish this today, September 4th, 2018. And if you want to be one of the first people to get the early bird perks of Stronger for this fall, then join me at flipping50.com/any-age, so that you will be one of our subscribers, where we share the first and most juicy information about announcements and share new research studies, so you can flip 50 with the life and the energy you love. What are you waiting for? Start flipping 50 today.